Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Now, in ancient times, it was always an emphasis for the other nations to separate us from our power. They understood that the nation of Israel's power, their strength, their stability came from that covenant that we had with the Most High. We still have with the Most High. All right. So when you talk about the Greek captivity, that was really a highlight point of that motive. You go to Psalms 83, it shows you that all the nations were in cahoots to separate the nation of Israel from their power. All right. But specifically, the Hellenization of the Jew was the highlight point of the motive of our enemies, primarily the nation of Esau. All right, because what is going on in the world today, you see a struggle for an everlasting dominion. There were two nations that were promised a worldwide domination in the scriptures. That was Jacob and Esau. The difference between the two is Jacob's was promised to be an everlasting kingdom, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven. Right now, we're in Esau's kingdom, which has an allotted time. And we're coming to the end of that allotted time. You understand? So just to back up some of the historical highlights that I mentioned, let's go to 2 Maccabees 6:6. And actually, I'll start up at the top. 2 Maccabees 6:1. It says, not long after this, the king sent an old man from Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of God. Why? All right. Because if you're talking about the deliverance from Egypt, Israel was made world renowned through that deliverance from Egypt. Egypt was the world power at the time. And there was a slave class that toppled the world. Think about Jake taking over America, turning America to nothing in a short time frame. How would that even be possible? Except some divine intervention happened. That's what happened. And that perpetually happened when nations would come up against Israel and they were on one accord with their power. So people understood, like, okay, if you're going to deal with these people and they're in good standing with the Most High, you can't overcome them. There's a supernatural force that goes and fights before them. We'll get some of those references as well. So even unto this day, you think it's not a priority for the nations behind closed doors to keep you in perpetual sin so that you're separated from your power? There's a remnant of Israel who's still going to have that connection in the days to come. And that's why the Lord is going to lift that standard up, because they've done their best to be in good standing with the Lord and to offend less, like it talks about in Sirach 17:24-25. Continuing on verse 2 here, 2 Maccabees 6, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, the worship of the gods, and that the Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming end of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots. They turned the temple into a place of degeneracy and Satanism, right? Who dallied with harlots and had to do with women in the circuit of holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful. The altar also was defiled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it, check it out, verse 6, the point I wanted, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. They wanted you to put off that heritage. That's why it's such a big deal when any Jake in the world sits up and professes the lineage that we actually come from. Kyrie Irving, not that he's a man of the Lord or anything, tweeted a documentary. The whole world stopped until he apologized. Everything stopped. Everything in the media was about, oh, he has to apologize. This is anti-Semitic. Nick Cannon, all these different guys. And as of late, you have all these different celebrities who have to go sit down, hold hands with these small hats, these imposters, and submit unto them. It's a priority that they keep Jake separated from the knowledge of who they are and from their connection with the Lord. Because there's a divine power that backs us that can't be overcome by man or mortals or any divination of this world. You see? I want to go to Deuteronomy 7:6, and I'm going to read it in the AMP. It says, for you are an holy people set apart to the Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be a people for his own possession. That is a very special treasure. And in the KJV, it says above all people. So there's a family on the earth that the Lord is closest to, and that they are given particular divine rights, capabilities, access that nobody else gets. And through this family, all those lofty terms that people talk about, like world peace, order, the earth is going to be managed in righteousness through this family. Of course, starting with the first spirit ever created, Yahweh Shai, the 12, 144,000 on down. That's going to be the healing of the earth. All right. But before that could even happen, the elect of the nation of Israel has to be healed and come back into the way. So people talk about, why does it matter what family he was dealing with or who the people were? That is the beginning of paradise. That has to happen before paradise manifests on the earth. Right? When you go through their texts and all these, there's accounts, even in the scriptures, we're going to read it, of the nation of Israel having a divine power going before them. Right? This is Exodus 14 and 14. I wonder how it reads in the AMP, but I'm going to stick with the KJV on this one. This is Exodus 14 and 14. All right, it reads. No, I'm going to start at 13. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not. And that's what the prophets are telling the elect of Israel in this time. Fear ye not, man. The Lord is with us. There be more of them that be with us, all right, than that be with them, all right. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will shew you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, and today we're in spiritual Sodom and Egypt, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you. I'm gonna read that again. Exodus 14 and 14. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. All right. That's going to happen on a higher level in this time. It tells you that in Jeremiah, I believe the 15th chapter. Let's go double check. Jeremiah 15, 16, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it 16 and 15? Let me see. 16 and 14. Jeremiah 16 and 14. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north. All right. We're currently in the land of the north. And from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into the land that I gave unto their fathers. So after this great deliverance is when the nation of Israel is going to be put back in the land of Israel. It's not going to happen via a Balfour Declaration. And I will bring them again into the land that I gave unto their fathers. This is after the return of the Messiah. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. Right now, great fishing is happening. The Lord has set his man on highways and byways, the chief places of concourse. Those who are taking heed are going to have an opportunity to be delivered. But there are many, like it talks about in Proverbs 1, who have set at naught the Lord's counsel. And when the judgment happens, as it also says in Proverbs 1, the Lord is going to laugh at your calamity. And much of that laughter is going to come by way of his men. Verse 16, behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. So again, it's always been a motive for the nations to create that barrier of sin between us and the Most High. That's how the disconnect from the access of the power happens. So nations would do this by exploiting or tempting Israel to commit idolatry or disobedience, knowing it invited defeat, right? And this is something that was crucial for them in ancient power struggles. Look at the example with the Assyrian conquest. In what was that, about 722 BC? Israel's sin led to what? Exile. The 10 tribes were taken, enabling the Assyrian dominance in the Levant and weakening God's visible reign through his people. All right, let's go to Isaiah 59 and 2. All right, it reads, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. This was something the nations understood. So when you go to that council in Psalms, the 83rd chapter, where it talks about all the nations were confederate against us, this is something they understood. This was the primary ingredient that was amongst their plans, amongst their counsel to come at us, because they know when we're in good standing with the Lord, what it leads to dominance over them. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson, what you're seeing play out in the earth is a struggle for the domination of the earth between Jacob and Esau. And Esau is the ringleader of the other nations. All right. Let's also get Joshua 7 and verse 11 in the KJV. It says, Israel have sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. Therefore, the children of Israel could not stand before their enemies, but turned their backs before their enemies, because they were accursed. Boom. Now I want to go back and highlight the Hellenization of the nation of Israel and the importance of that. And that's really, when you talk about the Apocrypha, people just skip. They go from the Old Testament to the New Testament. You're skipping hundreds and hundreds of years of history. So when you get to the new point, a New Testament, there's this mystery of the Gentiles that many Christians don't get. They don't understand because they're missing that history. They're missing the Hellenization of our people, and why the scriptures say neither Jew nor Greek, not neither Jew nor Moabite. Is specifically locking in on the Greeks because that's the captivity where our people were completely brainwashed. This is First Maccabees 1:41, but I'm going to read it in the GNT. It says, King Antiochus then wrote to his whole kingdom that all the people should be united as one people, and everyone should give up his own customs. All the Gentiles agreed to obey the king's command. All right. And that also was forced on the nation of Israel, not just the other nations. And you go to First Maccabees 1:54, jump it down. It says, on the 15th day of the second month of Caslu in the year of 145 of the Greek calendar, the king erected the horrible abomination upon the altar of burnt offerings, and in the surrounding cities they built pagan altars. And that vibration and that thought process and that philosophy, it lingered on all the way up into the time of Yahushua. And really, it lingered all the way up to our time. Our people still, in roundabout ways, worship these pagan deities, take on these philosophies from other nations, primarily the nation of Edom. A lot of Greek customs thrive unto this day. Now, it's a beautiful thing, and it's clearly divine intervention that in the midst of all this gross darkness, the Lord allowed a remnant of his people in our time to wake up to our heritage, to understand the scriptures, to understand the prophecy, be able to see what's going on around us with clear eyes. Is something to take very, very seriously. This is our purpose for being here. You understand? So it's to be nurtured. And this is what's going to protect people and give you a covering in the day of the Lord's anger. The acknowledgement of Yahushua, the acknowledgement of who we are, the acknowledgement of the standard the Lord has bestowed upon us, and to strive to keep it to the best of our ability. But primarily, we have to acknowledge that blood that was shed. That's our bridgeway back to the Father. The Lord is like a husband unto us, as the scriptures say. Go to Jeremiah 3:14. And what is a wife supposed to do for her husband? She forward the will of her husband. His agenda, she forwards it. And what does the Lord desire to happen? He desires for the kingdom of heaven to be on earth. So we herald in the kingdom of heaven. We go into prophecy. We watch for the signs. We warn the people, right? This is our job. And we uphold the standard in his loner. And I say loner, I'm talking about your flesh. We've been given these bodies to fulfill a purpose. You're not your own. So this body that you've been given, it's a living, you're supposed to use it to be a living sacrifice for the Lord's purpose. You understand? We forward the will of the husband. So with that being said, men Abarat, the lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakha HaKodash, double honest, the apostles, and the elders, a great millstone, Shalom, to all the brothers, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth and sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon you. Shalom.